Hey y'all, I'm Allie, I run Greenwitchmystics, and today my setting looks a little bit different. I was feeling a little funky, and the weather was just too nice to not be outside, so this is my office, this is my studio. I'll be showing you how to make these earrings, so let's just get into it. Except actually, stop doing this to trees. This is my office chair, don't do that. So here's what I have with me today. As usual, my 3 go-to pliers. This is optional, but I like using a clamp when I first start a wire weave. It just makes it easier to grip. And for gauges, I highly encourage you to experiment with different gauges for this project. This design can be very small and dainty, or you can use thicker wire and make more of a statement piece. So for my base wire, I used 18 gauge. I would recommend using square, but I don't have any. And then 2 20 gauge wires each for each earring. And you could use 26 gauge wire. I definitely wouldn't use 24 gauge wire on such thin gauges, but if you're using like 18 or 16 as your base wire, you can definitely use 24 gauge. Anyway, I'm just here clipping my pieces. They're about 5 to 6 inches. I never measure my pieces. I'm sure there's a math equation for that out there. I do not know it yet. So I always cut way more than I need, because it's always better to have too much than too little. So you can go ahead and start your weave, and again, I encourage you to add your own creative touch to this. Don't feel limited to the 2-wire weave that I'm doing. You can do a 3-wire weave, whatever you're feeling. You can even do a coil if you wanted to. So for this one, I'm gonna do 5 rounds on the bottom. So when I say rounds, I just mean like 1 turn, I guess. So I do 5 full turns on the bottom, and then I do 2 full ones over both of the wires. But you can switch this up for a different look. And throughout my weaves, I always continuously take flat nose pliers or my fingers and kind of run the wire down to make sure that it's secure and tight as possible. And again, be sure to periodically kind of push down your wire to make sure that there's no gaps or anything. And I like to smush my wire, and if you find some of the full wire that goes around both of them looks a little funky, you can just kind of smush them together. And after I get my weave relatively developed, I like to take it off the clamp. It just becomes more difficult than useful for me, but some people like to use the clamp all the way through. So depending on how big your bead is going to depend on how big you want your weave, or I guess how long you want your weave. I'm liking how mine's looking, so I'm going to go ahead and make a second one before I wrap anything, so I'm positive that they're the same length. This part is sped up, but I'm just kind of getting a feel for what the shape I want to go for, and how it's kind of flowing. And you see here I'm pinching a couple of those little elements because they're starting to widen a little bit, which is totally normal. You just smush it back into place. So for this part, it's especially important, at least for how I'm going to set mine up, that you leave a little bit of a gap between the bottom and the top wires so that you can tuck that, I guess from this point of view, that top wire back through. You'll see what I mean in just a minute. So this is the bottom wire that I'm securing first. This just gives it a more taut look to me. So I'm clipping that top one because it's a little too long. And here's what I mean by being able to leave space so you can kind of wrap it back underneath. I personally like doing it this way just because I find it easier to secure that bottom one. And again, if you have squared base wire, it's going to be a lot easier. But I don't, and I'm sure some of y'all don't, so it's okay, you can still do it. Now, you could totally make this look symmetrical and wrap the part I'm holding with my thumb back through. So it's kind of like a symmetrical, rounded look, but I'm not feeling that. I'm feeling funky. I'm feeling crazy today. Sorry in advance because this goes out of frame. Again, you can finish this off however you want. I wanted a little twisty moment action, and then I kind of straightened them out, and I'll have an arrow pointing to what I mean by straightening it out. So instead of just continuing this twisting action, it straightened out like that, bam. And I'm just gonna clip that off. And now we're gonna start the loop for the top of the earring. You wanna leave a little bit of a space where you can wrap the wire around the base wire. And you'll just use your tools or your fingers to twist the wire around the base. And I like to clip and finish mine off on the backs of the pieces, especially with earrings so that you can't see where it's been finished. And here is the first one. I'm gonna go and make the second one. So there they are, so pretty. I am going to have to go back to my home to show y'all how to make your own earring findings and the hooks that go through your your ear hole. So you want to use some grit sandpaper to soften the edges of the base of your wire, and you'll especially need this if you're going to make your own earring findings and your own earring hooks. However, you can buy your own, so this is just like an optional part of the video. So you'll need 20 gauge wire, and you won't need that long of a piece, maybe like 4 inches max. And you'll want to file one end super straight so that it'll be flush when we curl it. So you'll make a small loop, and this will be the part that attaches to the earring. So you can see what a big difference doing the filing work makes. This is one without being filed. You can see there's kind of like a gap. Now they make jigs that are like the shape of an earring finding like this. I do not have one. I just kind of do it myself, and I'll use ones that I have around. So for example, one of those is a little too small for what I need. So I'm going to use the big one. I'm not going to make it near as long as that one, but if you have any spare ones around, you can kind of make your own based off the shape of them, but depending on the earring that you make and how big it is, you might need a bigger or smaller finding. And again, you'll want to file it really good where it'll go through the ear and make sure it's nice and smooth. This part is optional. I have 20 gauge dead soft wire. If you have half hard, you probably won't really need to do this. And I also kind of like the look of it. Do not mash the part that will go in the ear. You don't want that flat. But hammering just makes the wire more stiff, and then you'll want to make sure you put it on the right side. I still, to this day, sometimes forget which end or direction you're supposed to put the earring on for the finding, but no biggie. So I like the look of this. I like the balance of it, so I'm going to make another one, and the good thing about making one is that it's a lot easier to make the rest. So all this is going to be sped up. I had to have an opportunity to flex my pumpkins on y'all. Of course, the little demon kitty is the one that I made, and my boyfriend's is on the left. But here are the earrings. They are super cute. I don't think I'm going to oxidize them. I like them how they are. But subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Bye.